In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sarwich First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Councillor Ferguson,
A motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Councillor Adams,
Motion to adopt the regular meeting of council of October 3rd, 2023 minutes as presented.
motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Okay, right into reports and new business. Bill, your turn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am here to do an update of the summer at the Visitor Info Center. So we had a really successful season at the Visitor Info Center. We operated from May 19th to September 4th. We had 3 staff this year. We were lucky enough to get our full complement of staff, so 2 full-time staff and 1 part-time. I think part of the reason we had such a great summer is we had such a great team out there. We had 1 returning staff and then another internal staff. And then we also had one of the requests that has come up, but actually worked out this year is we had one of our seniors from the community work out there that was retired, but was really passionate about the area and shared lots of really good knowledge out there with the people that came to visit. So through the VIC staff this year, they created some goals for themselves, which were to provide visitors with a positive and personalized tourism experience to the Slave Lake region in order to generate future visits, to provide quality and up-to-date information on a variety of local assets and events, to work collaboratively with local and regional businesses to promote our unique and interesting region, and to collect data and feedback from every visiting party counseled and generate ideas of how tourism in our area could improve. So I would definitely say that they've met their goals for the year. We did open a gift shop as well this year, which had some great success. We did have a little bit of trouble securing a debit and credit machine, but we'll work on that again next year. So all of our sales were cash sales, but we had some really good success there as well. And it was really great because the VIC staff took that. I helped them a little bit with some of the behind the scenes things, but they were the ones that went out and sought the vendors, created the agreements, and did worked on the setup and did all that. So I think that's always really good because they took a great deal of ownership over it and wanted to see it succeed. I think I went back and looked and I was like, I think their stats were slightly off, that we actually probably had a closer to 26% increase, but we did see a significant amount more visitors this year. So we had over 1,000 people come through our doors. The 3 most popular reasons for coming to the area were we had lots of people passing through, which is noted later in the report, that we still see, obviously with the world events was a little bit decreased come August, but we still see a lot of people stopping by when they're passing up to the Northwest Territories and further north, which was not something that I would have ever thought of as a tourism attraction before managing the VIC, but that is still a really big highlight for people coming to the areas that they're stopping here, but they're going to continue on their journey. So one of the things that is always talked about is what can we do to make them stay? We get that people are passing through, but what could we do to get them to stay a night or two? Camping, which we all know is a great attraction to the area, and local events and assets. The primary places of origin were from Edmonton in northern Alberta, but we also had lots of people from other areas. We had people from Spain, Tennessee, California, Germany, so lots of variety in the people that we're seeing through. From the report, some of the recommendations were that to have better trail signage and maps with some info on things like, were the trails easy? Were they hard? How long was it going to take to do the trails? So not just our town trails, but trails elsewhere in the area. So that's something that we can look at expanding. Quad trails and maps with info on the quad trails in the area. That one's always a little bit difficult because we were talking about it in the weekend where lots of the quad trails aren't actually areas that you're supposed to be quadding in. So that is something that I know we have talked about internally. And if there's a way to expand that, we will. More detailed maps of the area. So that's something definitely to pass along to the Tourism Society as they do a lot of our promotional handouts that we give out there. So just more things like where's the gas station, where are the hotels located? And it came up last year, but the way the map is situated, it misses the campgrounds on the river. So just to try and capture that a little bit better. The promo videos we have at the Vic are still the ones that I think were made the first year I got here, which was 2014. So it's got the Warmans quadding and the sand sculpture competition. So those play on repeat there. So it'd be nice if there was some budget to get some of those within the area, but they're not bad, but it would just be a good update. Branded merchandise to sell. Lots of people ask for slave-like items, which is not a hard thing. So we can definitely look at that. But yeah, as I mentioned, definitely a really good season, and we're looking forward to doing it again.
Ferguson.
Also, just a quick comment here. So I really like the idea as part of the training for touring. I think that's really good. And I think that's a really important component. In terms of, you know, what put Slave Lake on the radar for the individuals touring the area? So has there been any feedback about like the social media ads, or has anybody mentioned that?
Last year, we had lots of comments about it. This year, I didn't hear anything, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't something that came out. So last year we had lots of people from Edmonton saying that they'd seen the ad that came out. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Adams.
Again, much the same questions I had last year. Just want to clarify a few
Yeah.
things. You have total visits of 1,088. That just means carload pulls in, there's 5 people, that counts as 5 kind of thing.
That one, I'm trying to remember how they calculate it.
Oh, while you're at it, then it's also parties.
Yeah.
What's the difference between visitors, parties and individual visitors?
So total number of visitors would be each person that comes through the door. Total number of parties would be the group of, like if a group of people came together, and individual visitors would be if one person came there. So I know that this year they didn't monitor some years they've counted the people that come just to use the bathroom. This year, I believe they didn't do that. They actually did people that they counseled versus people that just stopped by to come through the doors, or that actually they gave information to and talked to. So yeah.
So individual visitors is included in the parties number, or it's outside?
I believe they're outside, but I should have asked them more this year because I forgot you asked me that question last
No,
year.
sorry. And then I guess the other question I have is, how did it work with consignment? Because I know we've had issues with that in the past.
So we did it 2 different ways. One, what we originally had proposed is that we would mark it up. I think it was 7% plus GST. So that covered our overhead. Our thought was that if we had a debit machine, because they charge per transaction, that would cover that. But we also did buy some gift bags and things like that. So we charged an additional 7%. So when we gave them the commission check back, we just less that 7%. But we did have one vendor that asked if they could pre-mark up their stuff, and then we just paid them less of their price. So some we marked up, and some when we just took 7% off of the price that we sold. So that's where I helped out. I had a tracking system. So we tracked each sale. We then gave a check to the vendor at the end of each month. I think some years they waited to the end of the summer. I found it easier to do it each month, so that then if there was any discrepancies, we were catching it sooner. And then we gave them a record of the sales with the calculations when we returned. the
And so
sales
we're
at the end
not
of the month.
carrying anything over the winter here.
No, we
We're
gave
carrying
everything
over.
back at the end of the season because we learned from experience that we didn't want to have a bunch of extra stuff there. No, they did a really, really fantastic job of managing that, because I told them the concerns from the past and they listened and did a great job. So
I keep going. Oh, okay, one more, last one. When you say you had 2 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff manning this, when you say full-time, is that for
They
the
weren't-
full 81 days, or is that?
they were 32.5 hours a week for 5 days a week. So not like full time. And then, yeah, they worked we started them at the very beginning of May. They did get pulled to help with the reception centers. So, but yeah, they did work the full term.
Okay. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, so just a couple of things that I noted. So obviously, some of the things that you've noted are actually already on the Tourism Society's radar. So in terms of the maps, the trail system, that one is a little bit more difficult. But all of these recommendations are definitely noted by us, and we're kind of hoping to revamp that possibly for next season if we can get funding. However, do you happen to know, like, how did the distribution go to the other VICs? You guys were able to handle all
Yeah,
that?
no,
for
all that
Brexville?
went really well.
Okay.
We even had some, excuse me, that pre-asked for them for next season. So,
Oh, great.
but yeah, no, that went really well. I find we've learned that those Canada Post mailers that come like, what does it say? If it fits, basically it mails. So we figured out that you can fit the predetermined amount that most Vics ask for in those boxes. So we just sent that out. So that is an expense that we always have every year at the Vic, but
Right.
just part of what we do. And we do share the cost of operating with the MD. So
Yeah.
we do that. But yeah, no, that's always one of my good summer tasks for them to manage
Hey,
that as
that's
well.
great.
So,
I'd love
yeah.
to get numbers of whoever's asking already.
Yeah, we
at
have
the
that.
time, just so that we have, more than enough to spread around.
Yeah.
Another thought I had was the promotional video also may be something that we're looking at, or perhaps we could even just do something with some of the updated photo gallery that we've been able to, you know what I mean? I think that'll be a quick fix. I really like the idea of branded items to sell. In fact, I like it so much that I'd like them to be Tourism Society items possibly, which is also something that our group has been talking about. So maybe stay tuned on that one. My one other thing I was going to mention is just, will this report be shared with the MD? Because a lot of these suggestions, if we want to take them seriously and actually action them, right?
So last year, what I did is I brought it also to the Tourism Society. So I was waiting to present it here first, and then I don't mind coming to talk to you guys. And then we
Yeah.
did present it at a intermunicipal. So as long as that's okay with
Perfect.
everyone, then I don't mind doing that again, because yeah, I remember last year some of that came up again.
Can we
so-
put that on the list for the next intermunicipal then?
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to see that for sure.
Admin, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Jill.
Anything further?
Oh.
Just double checking. You're good. Thank you. Oh,
Your mic's.
I was just gonna say motion to accept his information.
okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Okay. Sidewalks, trails, snow removal, Calvin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the report for information is for sidewalks and trails for snow removal service levels. This request for decision meets the strategic objective. Snow removal on trails and sidewalks enhances walkability, which helps improve the quality of life of residents. The purpose of this report to provide council with a summary of the service levels for sidewalk and trail snow clearing. Snow removal on trails and sidewalks falls into two categories. Sidewalks adjacent to private property and sidewalks adjacent to town-owned property and trail clearing. Okay, bylaw number 082022 snow removal bylaw states that residents are required to clear snow and ice from sidewalks adjacent to their property within 24 hours from the last snowfall. As well, they are not allowed to place the snow from the sidewalk or private property on the street. This is enforced through enforcement services. The town of Slave Lake is responsible for removing snow from sidewalks adjacent to town-owned property, as well as the Allery trails. Town crews place priority on clearing snow from the sidewalks as per 082022 snow removal bylaw. For the trail network, trail clearing is initiated in no more than 48 hours after the end of the snowfall. Depending on the amount of snow, it can take up to 72 hours from the end of the snowfall to completely clear the trails. The town has approximately 10 kilometers of trails and 3 kilometers of sidewalks, which takes approximately 16 to 18 hours to complete snow removal for both sidewalks and trails. During icy conditions, crews also put out pea gravel and salt at key intervals. Community Services has one piece of equipment used for this work, a tool cat, which is operated by a facility maintenance operator. If this machine is out of service, Community Services will work with operations. If operations are unable to provide the service, Community Services will contract the service out to a private company as a last option. Okay, policy implications, none. The attachment, there was a copy of the bylaw included, including a Schedule D, which has a map of the areas that we clear the trails on. So the red is the trails that we take care of, and the black is the sidewalk sections that are our responsibility. Snow removals on trails and sidewalks enhances walkability, which helps improve the quality of life for residents. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks. Counselor Adams.
My question revolves more around responsibility levels that we have here. I understand it's very cut and dry with a house. You're responsible for your sidewalk in front. Why do we have a different set of rules for the sidewalks that are running through Glory Land and along like the backside of Canadian Tire and in front of St. Francis?
So those are included in the trail system, right? So we're responsible
Why?
for it. Why?
I guess is what I'm getting at. Why wouldn't that be the landowner that's responsible for clearing those?
I guess it would fall under the same reasoning as the trails that run along Highway 88. I don't know if it's any frontage. Again, this is a policy that was, or a report that was previously, all this was in place before, right? So I mean, of course, we're open to any suggestions, but
I understand why we do the ones along Highway 88. I mean, that's wide open. It's on backsides of properties, whatever.
Yeah.
My understanding for the other ones, like we require West Side Village, for example, to clear their own sidewalks on the backside.
yeah,
So
well,
I
we
guess what I'm
do,
getting at is why are we continuing this down into
we do the one on the backside of West Side Village as well, along Sixth Ave.
into this?
Come on up, Tasha.
I think I can address this, but I can address it from my experience as a homeowner in Glory Land when that trail system was put in, as a homeowner being heavily opposed to the trail system at the time. A sidewalk sits against the road. They put the trail still on town property, but through yards, it looks like, but it's on town property. So the trail became defined as a trail versus a sidewalk because of the location from the proximity of the road.
My argument to that, but we have boulevards in town,
But
So
I'm
there's
not
really much
stating
difference.
whether it's right or wrong.
right?
I'm just saying.
I
that's the way it
just
was
wonder
explained
why
to
we
us.
spend town operational money and whatnot on roads or on sidewalks that I feel should be
So the
shoveled by the
difference would be
homeowner.
you'd have to define it as a sidewalk.
I think Lori wants to chime in.
Just wanted to chime in there. We do have a boulevard bylaw as well that speaks to maintenance of walkways in the summer months and so on and so forth. So anything that's abutting adjacent property, whether it's an asphalt trail or a monolithic block, is considered a public walkway and is the responsibility of adjacent property owner to maintain, and that's all over town. So this, even though it's part of the asphalt trail network, is still considered a public walkway. So it's subject to the same boulevard considerations as anything else. So why Glory Land or that Main Street extension was exempted out, I don't know either. It doesn't align with the boulevard bylaw either. Its stance would be if it's adjacent to a property, that property owner should be maintained. So Ken Works, Canadian Tire, the school, and so on and so forth. So just throwing that out there, it's not a bylaw that speaks to this. It's no very broad respect to everything else.
Jeff, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, and I guess the only thing I'd add is, as this service review and any other service reviews that administration brings is an opportunity for council to adjust and to change. So if that's the desire of council to make an adjustment to this service level review that's before you tonight, by all means, it's an option and it's available to council to do so. Administration is really only here to present what the current status of the services. Council dictates service levels and corresponding funding that goes with that. So administration will take direction from council as it relates to this item, if that's an item that council wishes to address in terms of service levels.
Councilor Graham.
Jeff, Tasha, Calvin, anyone else wants to play? What cons would there be to changing that to sidewalk from trail? For administrative wise and town wise, zero, right?
For changing it to
Yeah.
back to owner responsibility to,
Make everyone's life easier from admin side. It'd save money, right?
Councilor Hughes was first and then.
Oh,
Councilor
go ahead.
If
Ferguson.
you have a rebuttal to that, you can go ahead. Go.
Sure.
Okay, so I was here actually when that discussion was made, and at the time, the one of your predecessors had actually looked at changing everything along Main Street South, just saying the businesses that abut those should be the ones clearing it, kind of the general consensus was that it was too far removed from their property and there was concerns that they wouldn't get cleared. So for example, you have the ones by Ford, you have the ones by the Slave Lake Inn, you have the ones in front of the Sawridge Plaza. I mean, technically with what some of the councilors are saying here, then that should fall on under the responsibility of the owners of those. But the concern was that, like I said, it wouldn't get cleared. And that was kind of some of the same premise with Gloryland too. It was, there was concerns that it wouldn't get cleared adequately and that it was part of the trail system. So that it should be cleared as part of the trail system. So speaking to the history.
Councillor Hughes?
I'll let him rebut that since I'm kind of changing the topic a little, so you go ahead and stay on this one.
Sure, I'll rebut that. I mean, so by that argument, if I stop shoveling my sidewalk, will the town come and clear it from now on for free? Like, it makes no sense to me.
I was just stating the history.
What I'd like us to see is at least reevaluate this to the point that we are making what makes sense. I understand some of the sidewalks we have that are maybe running in front of green spaces that are then there's a secondary road or something like that. But to have it when it's right in front of a property, I feel it's the same as a sidewalk and the same responsibility as West Side Village has to clear in front of their business or for me to clear in front of my sidewalk.
Tasha, as a homeowner, does this feel like your sidewalk or a trail? Like, be honest, like, is it close enough that it feels like your sidewalk, or is it far enough away if you were to town staff, you'd be like, I'm not shoveling this?
It definitely feels like a trail.
Okay.
Well, good for a minute.
So I have been asking other Kelvin for a year or two now. I couldn't get it through my mind that you guys are the ones that do this. It's not operations. So my thing since I've been on council is I have noted every winter, I live on 6th Avenue, very busy street. Lots of people walk the trail system that you guys clear, but then they go down 6th Avenue with their dogs, they go to the dog park, and then they continue on downtown and around. So I've been wanting to kind of reevaluate this in a sort of a way as well, because I've noticed that stretch of sidewalk there isn't clear. There's apartment buildings and stuff on the other side, but on that stretch there's a good chunk of it that doesn't get cleared for days. It's really icy. I've seen people slip and fall there. So there are certain areas, I guess, to me as well, that I'd kind of like to look at too, that I just feel like maybe could, you know, deserve a little bit more time and attention and kind of speak to that walkability piece, almost in the sense that at least we're, you know, bringing people out to the trails and they kind of have a safe path home in some way,
Just so
right?
clear, you're referring to the town responsibilities.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
not-
referring to that, like a change in that type of thing.
That's the
almost.
case, and that's definitely a deficit on our service level area.
Yeah, no, I totally realize that. Yeah. But it's, I just a topic of conversation that I did want to have because I do feel like it gets used quite a bit and people do, you know, even in the cold days, people are definitely using at least that path that I've identified. And I'm sure there might be others as well. So. Go ahead.
Councillor Adams.
Steve.
Sorry, just trying to understand where you're speaking. You're talking around the dog park there. Our responsibility is from the back alley to the other side of the bridge. So where are you saying that?
Talking all the way down. to
Well, I'm just,
188.
I'm almost saying like, what could it be? Or is there a way to link it through? Like, I guess I'm talking about like the stretch through there too, in a way, because that's what people are doing. They're taking the highway trail all around and coming down and then going back into the downtown core, right? So it's not consistent there with the
Oh, so you're
clearing.
saying in front of all the houses on Sixth Avenue.
Well, that's how it used to
Clearing
be
that to make it
anyways, and it
connect
used to
there.
be like, right, instead of skipping that over, it was kind of all done, so it was like a clear path, so.
Clearing the connectors essentially is what
Yes,
you're saying
thank
to
you.
connect the trail system. Is that what
Totally.
you're gonna say?
From what I understand, it was changed.
I don't know, probably 6 years ago, we used to clear all the
Councils
collectors.
like to do that.
Oh, the collectors. So why did you guys stop the collectors?
Costs money.
Okay. No, really?
We're gonna stop doing in front of Tasha's and do in front of yours.
Like that. No, but I am curious on, well, I think I was curious on the history of it as well, but also just the feasibility, because really like that is a section that speaks to like, it's literally used a ton. And there may be other ones. I'm not just saying this one in particular, but it is something that I've noticed. So I don't know. I'm curious to peek in the box a little bit if we're going to discuss this map.
Councillor Adams.
There's so many other areas we could identify with that. This could get away from us. The responsibility of
Agreed.
homeowners So if they're not fulfilling what's in the bylaw and what's required, then if you get warned and you still don't do it, then we have a mechanism in place of enforcement that goes down that path. Now,
Yeah.
when you have people slipping and falling, that's not good when you're a homeowner, if they're doing that in front of your property. I mean, we could tie in Springwood, because you got the cut across from the trails and they all go back to the park and do the loop on the north.
Yeah.
So
No, I actually.
mean,
agree
there's
with
so
that. I
many we
feel
could
like there's
add
a
in,
couple
and
areas there though.
I
that
just
are-
feel it's a homeowner's responsibility. That's the way the bylaw has been written forever. So instead of working around that bylaw and going against it, let's start doing what we say we do or change the bylaw.
Okay. Can I ask a question about enforcement then as well? Like what has our stance been, you know, in terms of enforcement when a resident is over there, what is it, 48 hours, 24 hours?
So
It's
within,
in the bylaw.
yeah, it's within
Yeah.
24 hours. And then there is actually, I think it's the last page there, shows a chart of the fines and the first offense, second offense. type of
Right.
thing. So I guess it becomes an enforcement issue after if it's not being done by the homeowners, right? Or did I see that? I
Oh,
did
yeah,
see
okay, I
it.
see but like, are we actually enforcing this?
So I can speak a little bit to the historical for when enforcement fell under community services for the brief time I was here.
Yeah,
My understanding is there was a period of time where enforcement was really heavily played out when it came to snow removal in residents and
Mhm.
complying.
yeah,
And then there was a small period of time, I think, when enforcement was severely understaffed. And it became where in the grand scheme of priorities, that might not have been top priority of the things, issues that they were dealing with. But I do believe right now that that would not be the case. I think that they're well staffed and equipped to go into this winter.
okay, that's good
But
to
that
know.
is me speaking from somebody who enforcement is not reporting to me, so.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Moellem?
So for these offenses, is it usually someone who would call the town and complain about a certain spot, or do we have enforcement actually driving around and taking a look and, you know, making some notes on different properties?
I would say for the most part, council's kind of taken a direction where bylaw enforcement's complaint driven. And that's the direction that council's provided administration. Meaning that someone would have had to have complained or made a complaint in regards to a specific issue, whether it's sidewalks or unsightly premise or any other variation of all the other bylaws that we have, maybe in regards to development, in regards to signage, in regards to whatever the case may be, is typically complaint driven. I mean, there may be instances or some instances, maybe more specifically, maybe in our planning department where, you know, sometimes we might stumble across violations or whatever the case may be and be forced to deal with them at the time. But the vast majority, other than speed enforcement, obviously is not complaint driven. The vast majority of the bylaws that you're referring to are typically complaint driven.
So where does that leave us?
Yeah, that's what I
Is where we're at. I personally, I'll weigh in, 'cause I don't want to see a decrease in the walkability of our town. I think one of the beautiful things of a small town is walkability. I do believe in our trail system. I think our trail system needs to be accessible for our outdoor enthusiasts that do happen to run on trails. I don't, but there is a whole faction of people that do enjoy running in the winter. And I have an issue with anything that would decrease service level on walkability due to that. To me, it doesn't make sense. Yes. Go for the rebuttal,
I'll
Steve.
rebuttal on that.
Yep.
I understand that for our standard trail system, which is why that is a priority for us to go all the way around the circuit, the whole loop. It's all measured out for kilometers, whatever else. But if you're talking about walkability of Slave Lake, and that's what you're saying, how does that apply to the 40 residents that are up in Southwest Gloryland that affect what, 20 lots?
Counselor first.
I think you're comparing apples to oranges here. I mean, that trail system is twice as wide as a sidewalk. And the frontage is substantially more than the standard 1/8 of an acre lot in town. So the burden that puts on a homeowner for something that doesn't feel like a sidewalk, like full disclosure, I live out there, although it's not on my side of the property. I wouldn't be responsible for clearing it. It feels like a trail. It does not feel like a sidewalk, like it's part of our house, our house frontage.
Trail to where? Sorry, not to be rude, just honestly, where is it a trail to?
It's a trail into town.
Just like there's a trail
A
from,
sidewalk, like.
just like there's a trail from Big Fish Bay into town, there is no loop connecting it.
Well, so have the trail go all the way down Highway 88 to nowhere, essentially, right? No one in the industrial area is paying to that. It's just a trail for people.
Like,
Yeah, but it stops right there. No one, the MD is not plowing us to the beach. But like, I'm just saying, it's just the trail that people use, right? And I think runners and outdoor enthusiasts do just walk this all the time.
Yeah.
Just more space to walk and look at stuff.
Someone else who also regularly uses
Yeah,
the trail
definitely,
system.
definitely not using the trail system.
So I'm hearing an appetite from Counselor Adams to relook at this. I'm wondering.
What I'm talking about on this is just that one chunk is kind of disconnected from all our other trails. It's the one chunk that is against all the other areas in town that I can see where we clear snow. Every other trail has a clear trail. It's not a frontage. Doesn't cut in front of somebody's house, nothing. They all go down alley connectors and into actual trails through parks. So it's one that's different. And I understand what you're saying as far as it doesn't feel like a sidewalk, but at the same time, it's a sidewalk.
Would you also be talking about the piece that runs in front of the school there? You'd want the school to be able to.
Well, that's the only school in town that gets it cleared. St. Mary's doesn't. They got to do their own. Schurter, EG and Missioner will do their own.
I was just curious if you were only speaking about the residential or if you were speaking about that
Oh, I'm
entire
thinking about the
section. of
entire
highway.
section.
I just think it decreases the walkability a lot personally. So I'm on the opposite end of you on this one.
To be honest, it's probably one of the least amount of work to do that section. It's a one in, one out, and you're done compared to a lot of the other ones where we do little routes to the parks where it's tight corners and it takes you a lot longer to do. This one, you just drive in, you drive out and you're done. Like in the scheme of things, it's probably, I don't know if it's even a kilometer worth of trail compared to 10, right? So I don't know if how like the cost difference. I don't know. It's minimal, like as far as time consuming, right? It's minimal.
Counselor Hughes.
I'm on the opposite side as Counselor Adams. I take no issue with the Glory Land Trail really. And I would be looking for other options or recommendations to kind of increase where I'm saying there may be gaps that are filled. That's something that I would be looking for. Today, you asked me tomorrow when we start budget and I might say no. But today I am interested in resident safety and making those connections. So do with that what you will. Well,
So do
Sure,
you
the
want
residents can't
to make a motion to just accept its information, anyone pocket budget?
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, just trying to see where we're trying to. Take
No,
this
whatever,
from there.
weigh in again, but yeah, if that's. Okay, motion to accept his information then for now.
Okay,
Thanks for the lively discussion, guys.
Thanks.
any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Took a whole team to answer our question.
What's going on over there, man?
Okay, Lori.
All right, your worship and members of council, the report before you is a request for a decision on a shelter temporary application. The applicant and landowner is the town of Slave Lake and the legal lands is lot 1 plan 9923252 at 901 Caribou Trail Northwest. Lands have a CDC council direct control districting. Giving you the definition for shelter temporary. Which the big change here is that it's can operate for a period of 8 consecutive months. And once the approval expires, the use must cease for a period of 4. months, in accordance with section 111 of the land use bylaw. The general purpose of the CDC is to provide for developments that cannot be effectively accommodated under any other land use district because of unique land use characteristics, necessity for innovative ideas, or unusual site constraints as determined by council. So the general provisions for the CDC are that all developments must comply with the provisions of any statutory plan affecting the proposed land to be developed, and all land use applications shall be regulated by appropriate development standards as deemed by council. And finally, there is no appeal to a decision on a council direct control district. So a little bit of discussion on the application on the facility. We received an application for development and operation of a temporary shelter to be located at the existing Town of Slave Lake Fire Hall site, southeast corner. The applicant proposes the placement of a double wide ATCO style building, 24 by 60 feet, and has open space inside to allow the placement of sleeping mats for the homeless. The unit has 2 washrooms with a toilet and a sink, as well as a small kitchen area and utility room that houses the furnace and hot water tank. The applicant has indicated that they will have a shower constructed within the trailer, as well as a small office area. And there are 2 furnaces for the development, one in each half of the double wide. Same site was utilized for temporary shelter last winter. And to facilitate that use, the town ensured water, sanitary sewer, power, and natural gas services were brought to the site. There is a 100-foot by 100-foot chain link area created in the southeast corner of the fire hall site, close to the walking trail on 6th Ave Northwest. There's also a 24-foot gate on each of the north and south sides of the fenced area for access to the shelter site. The fence area totally separates the shelter site from the remainder of the fire hall site. Shelter trailer will be placed on site within the fenced area as per the submitted site plan, and will maintain a rear yard setback of approximately 30 feet and an east yard setback of approximately 17 feet. The shelter trailer will be on the west side of the paved walking trail, just west of the existing chain link fence that separates the walking trail from the fire hall site. An approach was developed, i.e. the south gate from 6th Ave Northwest, as shown on the site plan. And the approach is at least 24 feet wide and extends west onto 6th Ave road allowance. As per section 38 of the land use bylaw, as access is coming from a paved road, the approach should also be paved. So a portion of the access road connecting to 6th Ave and extending west has been paved, and the remaining portion into the site remains in gravel. Location maps, site maps, and floor plan have been included in the application and are attached to the report. For the operations side, the temporary shelter proposes to provide overnight accommodation for approximately 20 residents, and that will be confirmed upon issuance of an occupancy permit. It should be noted that the fire department will conduct an inspection and issue the occupancy permit, which will dictate the allowable occupancy load. At this time, the applicant's not sure what the approved occupancy load will be, but we will abide by whatever that permit would allow. The shelter will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from October 10th to May 31st, 2024. During the hours of operation, on-site security will be provided by a contractor. 1 full-time staff will be working on the site, so 2 individuals. The RCMP will also provide drop-in visits. There is a potential that additional staff may be approved for this development, but at minimum, there will be 2 individuals on site at all times. The temporary shelter will also consist of a small kitchen area with a microwave, toasters, refrigerator, freezer combo, coffee maker, washing machine, and dryer. And residents will be provided with 3 meals a day, and it is yet to be determined if cleaning services will be provided by shelter staff or on a contract basis. We're not recommending any advertising or referral letters with respect to this decision, as there is no ability to appeal. So in accordance with section 4.1 of the municipal development, the town of Slave Lake affirms the importance of providing a variety of housing opportunities and options within the community. Town also wishes to encourage and integrate the development of special needs housing throughout the community. The temporary shelter will be located on a portion of the existing fire hall site that has already been zoned CDC. The remainder of the fire hall site remains institutional zoning. The purpose of the district is to provide for developments, as I said, that cannot be effectively accommodated in other land use districts. The proposed temporary shelter aligns with this town's statutory plans. In the in that the MDP and the land use bylaw. The location in question meets with good planning principles in that it is very close to the town trails and public sidewalks, thereby providing a safe route for residents to walk to and from the shelter. The trail adjacent to the fire hall connects to Sixth Ave Northwest, which is a minor collector. And as such, this route does not direct the homeless into local residential areas. Typically, the homeless will either be walking to the downtown area or maybe to the Friendship Center for additional services. This location, emergency services facility, will eventually house a new RCMP detachment, which will deter criminal activity. The conflicts between uses should be less than other locations that we've had the shelter operate in town, as the site is on the outskirts of a residential neighborhood and on the outer periphery of town. This provides some separation between uses, which reduces the conflicts between those uses. Finally, it's not going to matter which location is chosen. There's always those who will support and those that do not. Decisions of this nature, if possible, are best made taking into consideration good planning principles and the alignment with existing objective and policy statements in our statutory plans. Based on all that, the planning department recommends council approve the shelter temporary at this location for a period of October 10th, 2023 to May 31st, 2024. And that would be subject to the conditions that have been attached below within the motion. Questions? Councillor Ferguson.
A question for our CAO here. So if this passes tonight, what date will we actually be operational, up and running, would you suppose?
Well, we're aiming, or we're attempting to be ready for November 1st. I mean, it's going to be all based on the next couple of weeks and how successful they are in getting all of the equipment, the trailer delivered on time. I mean, we've made significant progress in that endeavor, and we're shooting for November 1st, if not sooner. But
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Moellem.
Now, we've got a building to house 20 people. Are we using that? Is that 20 based on previous numbers that we've had before, using them like a similar temporary program?
yeah, so we do have some statistics that came from last year's usage and previous year's usage. And I mean, as the weather gets colder, the usage goes up, and as it gets warmer, the usage goes down. But on average, the numbers shown last year never broke 20, I believe, in a period of time. So we're attempting to establish a similar size shelter that would, potentially meet the needs of what we've seen in the past for demand. But again, as Lori had mentioned, it's going to be restrictive on the final occupancy rating of the building, and that the max will be the max.
I'll move that council approves the development and operation of a shelter temporary, providing services for approximately 20 individuals. The shelter will include the placement of and services to a double wide 24-foot by 60-foot building, i.e. ATCO style trailer, and will be in operation 24 hours per day, 7 days per week from October 10th, 2023 to May 31st, 2024. The proposed development is located at 901 Caribou Trail on Lot 1, Plan 992-3252 within the CDC Council Direct Control District, subject to the conditions within the report. Do I need to read the conditions?
No.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Councillor Adams.
My question revolved around the conditions, actually. We're being very specific in what we're asking for. Does that mean that if they change anything in there, like say they use a hired security guard instead of a contract security guard, it voids everything, or?
No. I mean, I just put that in for information, but I don't know. I wouldn't be voiding the permit over that.
Okay, thank you.
And sorry, I will add one just small correction. And in the description of the trailer, I believe Lori had mentioned the presence of a shower, and I don't think we're actually going to be able to have one in this location. So it'll be everything. The description's accurate, 24 by 60 and everything else that was included, but a shower is not included in the plan at this time. So just one small correction from the report.
Okay. That would be just a quick correction to the report, not the motion.
That's correct.
Okay.
Just the report.
Any further discussion? As I see none, call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you, Lori. Alberta Community Partnership Grant. Kush.
Good evening, your worship, members of council.
The purpose of this report is to provide information to council regarding a grant funding opportunity. Planning and Development Department from MD Lesser Slave River reached out to town administration on September 29th, proposing to participate in Alberta Community Partnership Grant. The grant provides funding to partnership of 2 or more municipalities to develop regional plans, service delivery framework, and regional service delivery efficiencies. If approved, the grant would provide 200,000 funding towards regional partnership. The due date for this grant was on October 2nd this year. To meet the deadline, we had to apply before getting a council motion in support. Upon further discussion with MD staff, it was determined that both municipalities could take up task to update municipal servicing standards, also known as development standards and procedures. Town's existing standards dates back to was completed and adopted in February 2015. However, since then, town administration and operations department had determined the need to update the standards to include few more additional engineering details and specification relating to urban infrastructure. The benefit of having a set of servicing standards and development guidelines for new subdivision and infrastructure with MD is to apply consistently on a regional basis to help provide clarity to land developers working in the region, and also ensuring that areas lying on the border between 2 municipalities have consistent infrastructure standards. This grant requires cooperation with MD of Lesser Slave River. If grant funding is not approved, then town administration would further look at other ways to undertake the task for updating the standards. So council has a couple of options, either to support town administration to pursue the available ACP grant funding, or direct town administration to withdraw the grant application. Tasks undertaken to update the municipal servicing standard will be fully funded by ACP grant if approved. Our recommendation is to recommend council to support town administration in pursuing the available ACP grant funding opportunity. The funding, if approved, will be used to undertake tasks to update existing municipal servicing standards in cooperation with MD of Lesser Slave River.
Councillor Adams.
Quick question on when we're saying we're going to be cooperating with the MD on these servicing standards, that meaning we're going to have a common service standard between the 2 of us now?
No, it will still be a 2 separate document. So town is more focused on urban infrastructure compared to MD is more focused on rural infrastructure. So the areas that would fall on kind of like an urban infrastructure basis, that would MD, let's say if it follows under MD, then they will piggyback on town standards and try to incorporate those standards into their development standards.
So if they have a portion, you're saying that's
Yes.
urban, then they
Yeah.
would, so that it is consistent.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Hughes.
No question, just a motion.
Correct.
I move that council supports administration in pursuing the available ACP grant funding opportunity.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kush. Jason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to combine the 2 advertising related bylaws, bylaw number 4, 2022, and bylaw number 1, 2023, and revise to include the advertising assets at Charity Park and Sinclair Ball Diamonds. Some background, in Q1 of 2023, administration tasked the Economic Development Department to manage the advertising program at the MRC. This was previously managed by the Community Services Department. In March of 2023, the town of Slave Lake hired a commission-based salesperson in an attempt to increase advertising sales. After approximately 3 months into the role, the town of Slave Lake did not see any significant increases in advertising sales. Shortly thereafter, the commission-based salesperson resigned from the role, and responsibility for advertising sales fell back to the manager of communications and economic development. In August of 2023, administration also tasked the Economic Development Department to manage the advertising program at Charity Park and Sinclair Ball Diamonds. This was previously managed by the Slave Lake Minor Baseball Association. No previous documentation, policies, procedures, or invoices were provided to the Economic Development Department for these assets. As such, the purpose of this report is to align Charity Park and Sinclair Ball Diamonds advertising assets with previously established advertising policies and procedures that are in place for other town-owned advertising assets. This report also proposes new advertising rates for Arena 2 at the MRC. which has historically seen very few clients. Currently, we have about 4 or 5. The purpose of these revised rates is to try and encourage new clients to purchase advertising space in Arena 2. So up for discussion, advertising rates were set at previous council meetings for both the advertising assets at the MRC and the community and facility digital signs. I present a summary of the rates. So the first location you see is Arena 1. I'm not proposing any changes to Arena 1. I'm happy to report that we have taken on several new clients since I started actively pitching sales in early August. I think I've signed up a total of 7 new clients, and most of the rink board space in Arena 1 is now full. Arena 2 is once again lagging behind with only 1 new client signed and no new prospects. So Arena 1, I'm not proposing any changes. That being said, if council wants to make a change, now is a good time to do it because we're revising the bylaw. Arena 2 is where I'm proposing some changes. So in the report, you'll see 2 numbers. One is presented in yellow highlight and then another one in plain black text. The yellow highlight is our currently established rates and the black text is what I'm proposing. So this is what's up for discussion. So for example, a small rink board currently costs $250. I'm proposing to reduce that to $125. Currently, a large rink board costs $400, and I'm proposing to bring that down to $200. As per, just some notes, as per the commercial advertising policy, advertisers are responsible for the creation and printing of their advertisements. Clients that purchase multiple ads in the MRC receive a 10% discount on their advertising, and the rates presented before you are an annual charge with GST not included. Advertisements are placed on a first come, first served basis with returning clients having first right of refusal. Next, I present the community and facility digital signs. Once again, I'm not proposing any changes to these rates at this time, but if council chooses so, now is a good time to do it. Once again, the prices do not include GST, and the community and facility signs have their own discounting scheme that was approved by council. So the new fee structure is what's presented next at Charity Park and the Sinclair Ball Diamonds. I went and did an inventory audit. So the large boards that are currently there are 8-foot by 4-foot metal signs that are bolted directly onto the ball diamond fence. Anecdotally, I was told, once again, I was provided no documentation on what has happened here. Anecdotally, I was told the Slave Lake Minor Baseball Association charged $300 annually. And if you recall where Charity Park is, it sits right on Highway 8. So it's actually pretty prime advertising space because it's right on highway frontage. So it does receive quite a few views per day. So I'm proposing increasing that annual price from $300 to $500. In doing my inventory audit, I mean, some of the companies that are advertising there right now don't exist anymore. For example, the Slave Lake chapter of the Sawridge Hotel. And there was one other one that is no longer in existence. So Slave Lake Minor Baseball wasn't updating their signage. So I'm proposing an annual price of $500 up for debate. And I want to add these assets into our bylaw and commercial advertising policy. The options before you are adopt the bylaw as presented in the report, adopt the bylaw with revisions, or make no changes to the bylaw and remove all existing advertising from Charity Park as advertising rates need to be established via bylaw. Resource impacts, increased demand on my time. Policy implications to bring these assets into our commercial advertising policy. I just included those assets. I removed the commission-based salesperson as he resigned, and I revised the role for myself. And also of note is I've actually made a recent change. I've reduced the airtime for static advertisements on our digital boards from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. Now, the reason I've done that is when I sit at a light, we're not getting through our full cycle. We have about 5 or 6 paid advertisers right now, of which the vast majority is Northern Lakes College. And when I sit at a light, I'm not seeing the full ad run through. So I made the decision to switch to 8 seconds. That can be switched right back again if council feels that 10 seconds is the appropriate amount. And once again, I'm hoping that as we get more clients, once again, that 8 seconds will make more sense because we're getting the advertising running through quickly. But that change can be made almost instantaneously. Communication strategy. So like I said, revisions will be made to the current advertising marketing flyer to include the advertising assets and rates at Charity Park and Sinclair Ball Diamonds. If you recall my presentation a couple of weeks ago in my economic development action plan, one of my actions was to go out to businesses and kind of introduce myself and my role. This would be a great thing to add on to that is I could go to the businesses, I could hand them this advertising marketing flyer hey, I'm Jason, I'm the EDO. Also, would you like to advertise with us? That's the communication strategy. Questions, comments?
Counselor Adams was ready to go.
There you go. Okay. I like what you put in here. It's tackling what we need to do in order to get that Arena 2 that's been a constant problem since I started in this short term, and I think it was a constant problem since you guys have had it. So I'm happy to see that we're addressing that issue. My question on and this is my ignorance on this, is what is our bylaw around digital signs at intersections? Do we meet that guideline with the 8-second change?
It's not in the bylaw, that's in our policy. So,
Right, but the bylaw states how fast you can change it.
I would have to double check that. But yeah.
Otherwise, I think that's a great idea as well. I found you're sitting at a light staring at a sign, it gets boring. looking
No,
at the
my
same thing.
apologies. I should have had that prepared, but yes.
Also,
Thank you.
the update to the signs is great, much better on a complete
can read
aside
it.
note. Steve's content that he can read the signs. Those were
I changed that. That's
huge improvements to that.
Yeah.
Counselor Ferguson.
So I just want to clarify right now, based off of kind of what you've been told is minor baseball takes care of the invoicing and like the advertising at the fields.
They used to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they aware this changes?
Yeah, they approached the community services department. I believe you'd have to ask our director of community service, sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm okay. I'm on the same page here. Yeah, so Slave Lake Minor Baseball actually approached community services and said they no longer want to take on this program. So then community services then relayed that on to me in early August, and I've been tasked to take over.
Okay, perfect. Sounds like everybody's chatting with each other, so that's good.
There we go. Counselor Wild.
I actually love the idea, especially on the ball diamonds. I spent lots of time there the last couple of years, and I always wondered why we weren't using that space more effectively, I guess. So
Counselor Hughes.
I'll weigh in too, I guess. I like that you've changed the static ad from the 10 to 8 seconds. I just think that makes sense. I'm gonna go drive through there later tonight and count it out and, but no, I'm joking. I like that.
And thanks to the CAO, he's answered our question with the previous bylaw. So
Yeah.
I've revised the bylaw and presenting to you to include that airtime. And I say advertisements will run for a minimum of 8 seconds in the new bylaw. So if you accept that bylaw, it'll be 8 seconds or above.
Okay.
So we don't have to, and because this bylaw rescinds our previous bylaws, we don't have to worry about that.
Okay. My one other comment I was gonna make, I don't quite remember now. Oh, just that I love the idea of you going out to businesses, kind of pursuing some new advertising for the charity park side of things. I think that's really great. I don't necessarily know what to think of the prices for that you're proposing on the rink boards. I was kind of hoping someone else was gonna weigh in on that. I'm not as familiar on what we should be charging. Is this fairly standard then, your suggestions here?
I would say that the Arena 1 rates are market rates.
Yeah.
And I'm reducing them to try and increase our Arena 2 customers. So what I'm
They're gonna be
presenting.
low
to-
for Arena 2 is
Yeah,
what we,
so
yeah.
what I'm presenting is below, what I would consider below market for Arena 2. I would say we're at market for Arena 1.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Graham.
Regarding the ball diamonds, there's a lot of signs on there that have been there for 20 years, probably, right? So are all their paydays coming due now again, or are they like?
This is kind of this is why I mentioned that no previous documentation was mentioned to
Yeah.
me. So like, I can't take them down. I'm working on the understanding of that they all signed a new contract with Slave Lake Minor Baseball at the beginning of the season. So I'm gonna let it run 1 year and
Okay.
then it's brand new slate.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a.
Because like I said, I was provided with no documentation, but I don't want to just start taking down signs and people getting mad at me because they have previously established
I
agreements.
think the 1 year grace period plus then a effective communication plan that.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. Yeah.
you know, that minor ball did want this, that they did want the town to take this over, would be positive, just so it doesn't look like we're rolling in and ripping down signs. Counselor Adams.
I move that council gives first reading to bylaw 21-2023, commercial advertising rates bylaw.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Gramlich.
We move that council give second reading to bylaw number 21-2023, commercial advertising rates bylaw.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. That is carried. Counselor Moellem.
I'll move that council gives unanimous consent for third reading to bylaw number 21-2023, commercial advertising rates bylaw.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Hughes.
I move that council gives third reading to bylaw number 21-2023, commercial advertising rates bylaw.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
CAO update.
Good evening. So before you have a copy of my CAO update report, and again, like normal, I'm just going to highlight some of the more important pieces I think that should be brought to your attention. So under economic development, our rural renewal stream portal update. So we have a total of 25 employers that have been granted approval to participate in the program, representing an increase of 1 compared to the previous year or previous month, sorry. We've extended offers to neighboring municipalities. So the MD of Lesser Slave River Town of High Prairie, MD of Opportunity in Big Lakes County to manage their rural renewal stream programs under the town's existing management structure with an annual fee of $10,000. The MD of Lesser Slave River has expressed interest and has scheduled a presentation on the program actually tomorrow at their council meeting. Under the industrial land and market and fiscal impact analysis, so the completion of this project is anticipated for November 2023. We just went through advertising, so I won't speak on that as well. And Community Future Spark of the North Conference. So our economic development department's been invited to serve as the MC for this Community Future Spark the North Conference scheduled for October 26th. Has been postponed, so disregard that one. Under occupational health and safety program, our health and safety audit is scheduled to begin next week and will continue for the next 45 days. That's an internal audit that we perform under the core program. Under recruitment, we've actually been successful in recruiting a number of our open positions. I think there's been a few updates on since this report was generated last week. A couple that we are still looking for are shelter workers. So pre-screening of candidates has begun this week here, and we're moving forward with the interviews very quickly. I believe we're also still looking for a public works operator and possibly our guest service assistant, although I'm not 100% sure on the status of that one. Under IT, our server upgrade and migration project is proceeding. It's nearly 90% complete. We've successfully migrated the file server and all business applications to the new servers. Council chamber audio video modernization. So we're exploring options for modernizing the audio visual setup in council chambers. Vendors have been invited to review and provide recommendations on best solutions. Under our homeless shelter, so we're presently in the process of recruiting for various positions, including security, which we've processed an RFP already, and additional shelter workers. ATCO has commenced the construction of the trailers intended for use at the site, and we're in the process of sourcing various components in preparation for the arrival of the trailer. So this will allow us to begin assembling all the necessary elements to become fully operational and ready to admit clients into the facility. Those components include camera systems for security, beds, internet access, and more. Under our operations department, the E-Lift force main project in Flushing is complete and currently conducting C-Lift cleaning. Public Works is conducting sweeping the leaves throughout town, hanging of lights on new trees in the downtown, installing 40-kilometer information signs on Highway 2 and 88, and organizing the yard for winter months coming. Under our projects department, a couple highlights: asphalt patching program 60% complete. Another round of patching work will be completed in the next couple of weeks. The Sawridge Force Main Twinning project's 90% complete. Work on the downtown art piece is progressing. The structural design for the pony wall is all complete. The concrete contractor will be scheduling the work in the next couple of weeks, and benches have also been added or ordered, sorry. EV chargers getting more than estimated use. So the energy provided from 08 of September to 05 of October is 895 kilowatt hours. A total of 38 unique users have charged since commissioning on July 6th. Construction of phase 1 industrial sewer is delayed by a couple of weeks due to contractor waiting for replacement parts. MRC roof repairs project's 90% complete. The project's expected to be fully complete in the next couple of weeks. Our projects department has drafted and posted RFP opportunities for green space contract, janitorial services, and municipal development plan land use bylaw rewrite. And a report will be presented to council in the future meeting regarding completed road assessment work and drainage master plan. Currently working with a consultant to finalize the reports for both projects. Under our planning and development department, the consultant for third space planning has started the stakeholder interviews, which included the MPC on October 2nd. The planning department continues to work with Lesser Slave Lake Regional Housing on a lease of vacant town parcel or piece of land, and are continuing to work with TELUS on a potential location for a telecommunications tower. Under our fire department, total calls to date for 2023 is 529. In comparison to 392 this same time last year, or 385 the year previous in 2021. For bylaw and enforcement statistics or services, during the months of September, peace officers were busy with back to school education and enforcement for traffic. A number of bylaw related files such as barking dog complaints, dogs at large, a virus outbreak at the pound, and unsightly property matters. Also, a number of joint co-responses to MVCs. Senior police officers worked with the Animal Rescue Society in a joint effort to host a free dog license adoption day. And the automated traffic enforcement audit was completed with the senior peace officer and fire chief spending the day going over the entire program with the auditor. Under our community services department, under the aquatics department, they're having their Halloween movie swim scheduled for October 27th. A swim instructor course is being offered in-house this weekend, October 13th to 15th. They've added special needs swim times and are offering PCP firefighters swim instruction as part of their program, in partnership with the fire department and the college. Under our facilities and parks, they completed the washroom winterizing at Hilda Eben and are transitioning staff back from parks to the MRC for the ice season. Our FCSS Family Fun Night at Bite Hub in September had 55 individuals and 14 families. 30 people were waitlisted and was a highly successful event. For the month of October, their Family Fun Night is set for October 23rd. It's going to be a Halloween cookie decorating and supper from Susan's Kitchen. And they will be advertising for snow removal volunteers for seniors this month as well. Under recreation and programming, fall courses and workshops have all been well received by the community. MRC drop-in programming has shown strong attendance this fall. Any unsold ice is being advertised weekly, and the hours, fall winter hours for MRC are in effect. So Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And of note, the Legacy Center is on track to have the busiest year of bookings since we've run the building. So they're having a record year. Those are my comments. If you have any questions.
Councilor Ferguson.
I saw a comment for Jeff or Jason here. So sorry if this has been addressed at another meeting, but are we contemplating running a winter Facebook tourism campaign?
Nope. No winter campaign has been contemplated at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Adams.
Two sets of questions, I guess I got here. Rural renewal stream piece, when you went back there, that's great that we have somebody that's interested and wants presentation on, love it. Have any of the ones we reached out to actually just said no, or has it just been a no response?
No response, other than the MD of Lesser Slave has invited us to.
So it might not
Present.
be off the table fully, but.
Good, okay. And then I'm just trying to understand how the statistics here you have on our peace officer time allotment. We have 74 calls in total. And so the homelessness related calls amount for 8% of those calls, and dogs amount to 42% of our calls. That's what, how much time do they actually spend with dogs?
Well,
42%.
there is a lot of
Like, that's
calls.
crazy.
There is a lot of calls that are being addressed by
I have
the,
a question to piggyback on that, that kind of relates, not necessarily towards the animal bylaw issues that we have. But what's the average length of call for service? 'Cause we said there's 74 calls, but what is the average? Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours?
you know, like, it would be difficult to say. I mean, some of them might be quicker than others, like, you know, a homelessness related call might be, it might be something that's handled and addressed in 10 minutes sort of thing, right? Just moving someone along from a location that's not desirable, right? a motor vehicle accident or a motor vehicle collision, well, that could be an hour or two. Or it could be a fender bender that's resolved in the amount of time it takes for two people to exchange their name and driver's license
I was
information.
just, yeah, I was just kind of
So-
curious what if we had an average call time.
Dog
But back to
complaints,
the
like
dogs.
dog complaints running around, it could take a little while to get a couple buggers into the back of their truck, right? And it could,
It looks,
it might be really quick.
it
So,
looks like dog barking,
barking, like,
and I don't know what other animal call responses would be other than we have
yeah,
we have dog barking
Dog attack.
complaints is 10, animal neglect responses is 2, dog attack investigation is 2.
The other call responses.
And then the other, what other animal call responses are there?
I'm not exactly sure, but I can definitely find out. if
I'm
you're
just curious
interested.
what the other category is, like
Yeah,
what,
I'm-
where is, obviously this is leading us,
Reptiles.
there's an issue with animal control. And
There definitely is a lot of work in that area
Lot of work,
of
yeah.
focus, right? For sure.
interesting. Counselor Gramlich.
Back to Counselor Ferguson's question,
Sorry.
going into Counselor Hughes, do you guys have a winter tourism plan?
We do not at this time because we really don't have a budget to necessarily pull that off, but I like his question and would honestly love to see that as well, but I don't think it is budgeted at this point in time either. So perhaps that's a discussion for tomorrow at budget again.
No, definitely not. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Counselor Moallem.
Right now, how is unsold ice being communicated?
So Community Services provides the communication department weekly on their unused ice times, and then we post to social media, and that's pretty much the extent of it.
So basically, it's only really hitting locally. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to maybe get some out of town people using our ice and then maybe, coming here for tournaments in the future once they see it. Just a little way of advertising it, I guess.
Yeah, that's a possibility. The problem is the times fluctuate on a weekly basis. So some weeks we'll have no ice time, sometimes we'll have a lot. And then you would have to pay to advertise that space. So it all comes down to bang for buck.
Yeah, currently, the advertising that we are doing is essentially at a zero cost, right? So if you're aware of some other medium that you think would be applicable in this case, that's also timely. We can explore that, but potentially there's a cost associated to that. There might be a trade-off, right? But I mean, we're open to suggestions. If you've got an idea of how you think that this ice time could be communicated to
No, I
people
was just
residing in
thinking-
Red Earth, then
No, I have, tons of friends who are playing hockey in the city and can't find any ice time, like it's almost impossible. So I'm just wondering if, not that they're gonna come here to use the ice, on a Wednesday or whatever, but trying to get them here just to know that there's ice available, probably like even in the summer, being able to advertise that in the summer.
Yeah, I think that speaks more to our tournament and event marketing package than it does the weekly ice times, because the weekly ice times, like I said, just fluctuate so much. It's really difficult to advertise that. But absolutely, for the tournament and event marketing package, yeah, absolutely. And we're currently working on that.
Counselor Adams.
Move to accept the COA update from October 2023 as information.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, management task list. Comments, questions, concerns? Updates? Make a motion. Counselor Adams.
Motion to accept the task list for October 2023 as information.
Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Moving forward to question period. We've asked a lot of questions. Do we have any more? Counselor Moallem does.
I just noticed that we put out those big flower pots all across through our downtown. I don't know if anything was ever planted in those flower pots. Like mine was empty and I had some friends plant some tomatoes in mine. So I've got a ton of tomatoes in mine, but all the other ones all across town have, I think, have all been empty.
I would, you know what, I wouldn't be able to know to speak to that. I can find out what had happened or what hasn't happened.
I'll speak to that a little bit. There were some downtown that were done. They did have problems with some flowers. I know the ones in front of mine got planted, died. So I think they ran into problems with that. Again, those flowers though aren't. Or no, the maintenance is done by is volunteer. That's right. We do pay for that. But so some were, not all.
Work to get those out there, so I'm gonna take that back.
I'll find out for you what happened.
Thank you. Okay, as I see no further questions, we are going to move into our committee minutes. First up is Alberta North Central Alliance. So we met a few weeks ago in Wabasca, and it was actually really great turnout from all of our representative communities. We have a new website. It is albertanca.ca. So that's exciting. There were two main reports for the meeting. One was a tourism report focusing on the strategic alignment regarding developing tourism and cultural tourism opportunities through collaborative partnerships. So some of this discussion surrounded partnerships with the Slave Lake Regional Tourist Society, as well as doing some advocacy work with Travel Alberta. Currently, our the ANZA area is under the Lakeland region, and there's no prominent features on the main page regarding any of our communities. So there was some focus on realigning perhaps Travel Alberta with the goals of tourism in the ANZA area. There was also a housing report where ANZA is going to be working towards building relationships with housing associations. There was some interesting facts presented at the meeting, such as that seniors housing will need to increase by over 50% in the next 10 years to meet the needs of seniors approaching the age of 80. So this was not even including seniors 65 and above, but it was just 80 and above that our housing needs are insufficient. This looked at housing both on and outside First Nations communities, and that we do not have as a whole throughout the entire ANZA area enough houses to support our population. So advocacy was the number one thing that came out of that. The housing authorities that were spoken to wanted to have ANZA advocate for an increase to their operational budgets, even just to stay in pace with inflation, so that they are able to support that. So that is ANZA. I am also going to keep rolling into the Lesser Slave Lake Regional Housing Authority meeting. Currently, the wait list went from 41 to 38 for social housing, and there is a wait list of 10 for senior self-contained and Vanderwell Heritage Place. There were some evictions, and we are working on some accounts receivable collections. There are some clients that are leaving with significant damages to housing. So while we do have there's 18 units in social housing that are currently having renovations or repairs. And so on move out, there's a significant amount of damage, and this damage is then having basically what I'm trying to say is we could have had a lot more of our wait list housed if there weren't such substantial renovations that needed to occur to these properties. And then just to note that we will be working on our budget for the next fiscal year. Councillor Hughes.
Sorry, so just to explain the increase from the 31 to 48, that's because so many of them are damaged?
No,
to
it's
the wait
down.
list,
Yeah,
or-
the wait list went down from 41 to 38. So the wait list went
Oh,
down.
it went down.
slightly. Yeah,
Oh, pardon
the
me.
wait list went down slightly,
Okay.
but if you look at the fact that there were 18 units, so I'm just looking at the wait list for social housing. So there's 38 that are on the social housing and Heritage Village wait list, but there's 18 units currently in renovation and repair. So we could be housing just under half of the wait list as a housing authority if these damages weren't so prevalent. So that's also on, and then when we're looking at tying the two together, when you're looking at funding, those renovations are all placed back on the housing authority. Some of it can be charged to clients on move out, but the likelihood of collections is very minimal.
Very slim, yeah, okay. And I just had one other follow-up with regards to your ANZA update. I did just want to say that we were made aware of the lack of exposure on the Travel Alberta website a number of weeks ago, and it will not take much advocacy. Took one phone call and we will be listed on there very shortly, as well as upcoming events as well. So a bit of an oversight there, but we are correcting that very quickly.
Appreciate that. That's what ANSA was looking for with and tourism was looking for. The exact same thing, was just a more prominent feature and be listed in the correct portion of the map. Would also be helpful with communities that are close to us versus I think it was Cold Lake that Slave Lake was lumped in with. Jason's nodding. So Slave Lake was lumped in with Cold Lake, which aren't clearly they hadn't hit the trail and driven the provincial highway system before posting that. So that is good news. Okay, Tri-Council Health.
Alberta's Rural Health Professions Action Plan is promoting nursing careers to students from grades 9 to 12. This took place today from 6:30 to 7:30 and trying to get more students going down the nursing path. I'll be putting together and delivering a welcome package for a new international nurse. We still have $2,800, I think, towards welcome packages. So I think one of them will be going to, I could do another one for her. And this goes to my next point, is we have a new physician that started on September 25th with the hospital here. And then we decided to postpone a review of our terms of reference after organizational meetings for both the town and the MD. So that'll happen in an upcoming meeting.
Thank
Anything
you.
to add?
Okay, Community Futures.
Community Futures has been quite busy. They've exceeded nearly all of our measurable goals for the year and only 50% through the year for their fiscal year. This has been a surge in excuse me, there has been a surge in business activity, and we're seeing our rate loan inquiries and applications go up significantly compared to the last 2 years. It's kind of nice to start seeing that flow in our local community. Community Futures is currently developing a suite of wraparound services for anyone looking to get into business or needing assistance. They're trying to tailor make some of their loan packages and loan offerings. Instead of having the Alberta-wide option, they're starting to make them more localized so that they fit the needs of our community. So it's really nice to see that adapting from what it's been in the past. Excuse me. Also, they're hoping to act as a connecting point for many of the organizations to support collaborative work. Some of the areas they're looking to support in the next few years include housing solutions, daycare solutions, industry attraction and diversification, employment, labor and market solutions. And they're asking that anyone who's working on these projects in these areas, please let them know how they can help. This can be forms of help as in facilitating connections, or can even be as far as training options and getting the funding for that. So there's a lot of different things that they have access to. So I would encourage anybody out there thinking of expanding anything to bring together to at least contact them and have a conversation.
MPC.
We approved a new home-based business for ethnic foods and a transitional home in the Southwest.
Airport.
So we had a meeting here the other day. It looks like we are on pace to have an unprecedented year in terms of revenue due to the extreme forest fire season. We are projecting a surplus of roughly $150,000. The surplus comes as extremely good news considering we have an upcoming shoreline stabilization project that will likely take place next year. We currently have $430,000 budgeted for this. However, we won't know specifics until we have a detailed engineering report, which was just awarded at our last meeting as well. We will likely be using a form of bagged riprap, and as stated earlier, preliminary estimates put this cost at around $430,000, which is much better than the original estimate of over $4.5 million. The airport has limited ability to pay for large unexpected expenditures such as this. If the cost comes in too high, the airport may be inclined to ask both commission members, the MD and the town, for support in completing the project. We did award the contract for a detailed airport master plan, and it will be completed by April 2024. We received a grant from the provincial government for the full cost of this plan. We also approved the budget for 2024. Due to the exceptional year in 2023, the airport will not be requesting an increase to the requisition. For information, the town and the MD currently each contribute 229,500 to the commission on a yearly basis. And that is the highlights.
Fantastic. I will make a motion to accept the committee reports as information. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Okay, State of the Lake. Do we have anything for State of the Lake from council? Councillor Moellem.
As a part of Fire Prevention Week, the Slave Lake Regional Fire Department is hosting an open house on Saturday, October 14th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can come down and meet your local firefighters and enjoy a free barbecue.
Councillor Hughes.
While I didn't have a tourism update overall for you guys, because I don't want to keep boring you with the same thing I said last month. We do have an exciting event tomorrow real quick that I did want to highlight. So it will be our fall tourism operators meeting being held tomorrow from 7 to 9 at the Legion. We have our area representative from Travel Alberta, Chris Down, coming down to facilitate kind of just an informal discussion with a lot of our operators in the area, coming in to talk about their summer season, the successes that they've had, and then we'll go from there and kind of see about planning other future meetings and where that will take us. But we're really excited about that. So please, if you know anybody who should be there, please tell them to come.
Councillor Granick.
So on top of Minister LaGrange coming up last week, we also were paid a visit by Parliamentary Secretary Martin Long, who is Parliamentary Secretary for Rural Health. I can't believe I just said that twice. I could have done it the first time. So he toured some of our facilities with our MLA and myself and listens to a number of different residents on their concerns with healthcare and that. So just letting the public know that our government is listening, and I assume changes will be coming.
Okay, the Slave Lake Native Friendship Center is launching their Coats for Kids program, where clean and in good condition secondhand or new winter coats for all sizes or ages, including adults, can be dropped off at the Friendship Center between 8:30 and 4:30 p.m., which is their business hours. Next up, the Lesser Slave Lake Regional Arts Council has provided their schedule of activities, and you can register at slregionalartscouncil@gmail.com. as well. Their Facebook page has all the list of events, and there's some limited availability there, so can make sure we get out and support this council with regards to all of their activities coming up. It's quite an expanded offering, so that's exciting for them. Next up, as Ali had mentioned, we do have a new doctor in town. It is Dr. Lawal, and I was informed today that he is been waiting for his approval from the College of Physicians and Surgeons, and he started in late September, and that he is accepting new patients. So we would love to welcome him to our community, and there'll be a formal press release from AHS soon. I would also like to draw attention to the fact that we have our town by-election coming up. The nomination period closes October 31st, and we're going to have advanced polls on Saturday, November 18th and Thursday, November 24th from 10 to 4. The final election day will be November 28th from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Just a reminder that if you would like to run for council, you do need to come to the town office during our business hours and pick up the nomination package for completion and then bring it back. And finally, last week, we celebrated on October 4th. I guess celebrate isn't the right word. We honored on October 4th, Sisters in Spirit Day. So October 4th is Sisters in Spirit Day, is recognized in Alberta and some other provinces to honor the lives of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, their families, loved ones, and communities. Representing the lives lost, red dresses hang to honor their spirits. On this day, vigilant events are also held across the country to support family members and loved ones. And so I was joined by my colleagues for the second annual Sisters in Spirit Walk held by Region 5 Métis Nation of Alberta to honor the missing and murdered Indigenous women, their families, and their communities. So I just wanted to thank the Region 5 Métis Nation for organizing this event. And I hope to see an even greater turnout for the walk next year. And I believe that is it. Councillor Hughes.
Motion to go into closed session.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried.